I see the wicked scars you own.
There you go, Lucy Lamp. Thank you, Goddess, for giving me this space. I'm so grateful. I already told you before we went on camera that you are becoming like what I thought I was embodying, and I didn't really have a strong reference what I was becoming to. And then all the students like, well, doesn't matter. I'm doing it. I'm trusting in new levels. And then you showed up in my social media, and I could tell right away that it's like, wow, the connection. Okay, this is the new guidance is coming into my way, and I'm sure it's already becoming the guidance for so many other women that we are in this new this new
a new timeline,
rebirth,
reality,
rebirth every second with this new timeline, with this new reality that we are experiencing. And this deep work of unifying our feminine and our masculine in deeper ways, that it serves us. It serves us and support our happiness and our pleasure. So I'm so excited that we start this season of feminine pleasure, feminine expansion. And with you, wow. I have to share something here. When I reached out to Lucy, I was like, she's not gonna get back at me. Like, she's not, she's probably so busy. She has 4 kids, right? 4 or 5?
Yeah, 4.
4 kids. She has 4 kids, and she's super busy in service to the feminine. And I was like, like this is such a, how do you say, like a very long, like a long shot,
like a long shot.
It was a long shot. It was a very long shot. But my intuition kept telling me, reach out to her. And sure enough, as soon as I reached out to her, a few minutes after, she reached out to me with 2, not with 1, with 2 voice notes, which most of the people who know me, they know I love voice notes. I connect right away with the vibration. And I was like, wow, thank you, universe. And thank you, my inner goddess, for guiding me.
Yeah.
And thank you, Jen, for listening and performing into this reality and trusting in new levels. So thank you, Lucy. Do you want to introduce yourself with your services?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Lucy Lampe, and I'm a lot of things, but I really, my title is sex and relationship coach. But within that, I work very intimately with the healing journey of women and men and couples. And a lot of this involves our sexual and erotic liberation and going into like the shadowy parts of ourselves that we haven't explored yet, so that we can be a more fully integrated, wholehearted person. And like Jen mentioned, I do have 4 kids, and my husband Ryan and I have been married for 16 and a half years. It'll be 17 years at the end of the year. And we've experienced a lot of different things together, gone through a lot of different seasons, and all of that was ultimately what led me to explore everything that you see me share about and guide others through now.
Yeah, beautiful. And and also they have a very passionate and deep relationship, which they put in service to others, to serve as a sample that's possible. That's possible. Go through evolution with your couple and die, in the process once and again, and re-choose your partner in different levels. Because I think from what I see based on my experience as well, we sometimes hold back to evolve because we are so scared to lose our partner that they're not going to choose us again, because we don't know if we're going to choose us again. Sometimes we doubt and we're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who I'm becoming, but here I am, here I'm going.
Yeah.
So in my case, I have seen, like I'm sharing it here openly before we dive deep into this topic that we're going to share today, but it's all related actually, because in some very deep process of my soul, I have choose to be single. I have walked away from a relationship because I I don't think like I was scared, but I'm like deep down, it's like, this is gonna be too much for you, dude. Like it's a lot for me. Like it's better if you're not around, so I can't do my process freely. And I think we're approaching to this era where women, as the feminine is rising, also we are the ones who are providing information for the men, which what really we need from them. Like there was a time when we didn't know, we didn't have the example from our ancestors, and we just are learning a new way of embody the goddess that we all have inside. Yeah. So, well, the topic that we picked today was sexual media. So let me share here. I saw that amazing post. I follow LUCI. If you follow me on Instagram, you have seen already that I've shared a lot of things from LUCI's account. But there was this specific post that it was like, wow, that's so me. That has been so me in this past year, because that was my relationship with social media. That was hate and love. Hate and love. Same with masculine energy. It's hate and love. Either I love you or either get out of my way.
Yeah.
You're not good enough. You're on my way. You're stopping me. Same with my inner relationship with my masculine energy. Either I love it because you're giving me so much pleasure. You're giving me money. You are giving me so much exposure. Or either I get to hate you because I'm so tired of you. Like, you're draining me. You're draining me, dude.
Yeah.
Like inside of me. This is the battle that's a lot of women has happened. And it took me to step back completely from my masculine, completely, to actually rebuild that connection and get to say, hey, dude, you're welcome to come. You don't need to, I don't need to overuse you anymore. You can come here and support me. Well, you can do it. And when you're tired, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen that it's time for the feminine to take care of me, like and work in that union. And well, I can share with you guys that for me, my experience hasn't been easy and it's taken a while and a lot of practice, a lot of patience. So we have this topic about how we relate to social media is so connected. It's a beautiful reflection of how you actually are interacting with your inner masculine, your sacred masculine energy. So that's why this goddess expert in the topic is here today. And I usually move my hands a lot, but you can tell I'm more excited.
When I start talking, I get my hands they're just everywhere.
Well, the extension of her heart, it's coming.
Yes.
It's expanding. So I let you talk. I let you the spot, LUCI, because she has so much to share with us. And thank you again. I cannot say thank you enough. I cannot thank you enough.
And thank you for letting me share here, because this is and this is a topic that like I was telling Jen before this, for those listening, that I haven't specifically just spoken to this topic in a conversation like this before. So this is fun. And yeah, there's so much. And so the big thing too to remember is that it's a dance, right? It's a continuous dance. It's not like we've established inner harmony, inner union, and now we're good. Like we're just, everything's fine. It's really being attuned to how harmonious you feel in this moment. How harmonious are those energies today, this morning, this week? And what I noticed is that actually there was a post that I made just earlier today, maybe like an hour and a half hour ago, that was talking a little bit about how, I've learned that my feminine and masculine energies have come to this understanding that my peace is more important than my productivity, and my well-being is more important than my next milestone. Those types of things. Having space in my calendar, in my day, inside in my inner landscape is more important than maxing out, how much can I get done this week? And so this is a lot of that, like, very nuanced dance that our inner energies do. And I noticed that I I like to give this example of the masculine containment and then the feminine having a space within that to feel safe and fully bloom and flow and create and come up with post ideas and write the next course and all that kind of creation. But what I've noticed is that for me personally, if I create more masculine containment for masculine activities, and that far outweighs my happy feeling place where I'm creating a masculine containment for my feminine to flow, then I start to feel kind of like I get cranky. I get like who's taking care of me? So why doesn't anybody love me? And it's just because I'm not tapping into that energy in myself and not allowing myself to open to the love that is literally right there. And so the same thing happens in our social media, the way that we relate to it, that when we find ourselves becoming resentful and frustrated with not having the results that we want or that we think we're entitled to or that we should have at this level or whatever that is, then when you check in, you might find that there is an attachment to a particular goal or outcome instead of letting yourself just show up to that space and be and letting that space hold your creation, your thoughts, your wisdoms, the things that are channeled through you. And there's never a feeling of entitlement in that, I find, when I'm really coming and creating from that space. It's only when I decide like, well, I spent so much time on this post and
Nobody
and I
saw
really
it.
forced, yeah, like very few people saw it and interacted with it. And usually the energy that I create that from was more of a force and trying to, it feels hard. It feels hard instead of it feeling like it's flowing and it's being burst through me. It's
Yeah,
just
it
it's
feels
just coming
controlled.
alive. Yeah, yeah, it's power versus force because you in your element is power. You in your alignment is power, but you trying to manipulate the outcomes because it's time to make a post for the algorithm or you haven't shared anything today or whatever that is, then that's where it can become forceful.
Yeah. No, I certify it. I always certify everything that my guests are here because there's the frequency, right, component. Um, you mentioned in one of your posts, I follow them all lately, that you find yourself most like 70 in your feminine and 30% in your masculine. And I totally relate to that too, because I'm realizing in this past year that actually it's very little from what I need from my masculine. It's very little that place when I want to be outside, then I want to be exposed and in service. But it's very productive from when I do it from a solid feminine, from a flourish. Can I say flourish? Yeah, floreciente in Spanish.
Yes.
From a flourish feminine. And that was the proof to a lot of my practices. I mentioned it to you before, and a lot of people know that I really back up for a year in many ways. And really nothing changed. I was worried sometimes. I was like, well, am I gonna get work then later? It's gonna what's gonna happen with the podcast? What's gonna happen with all the seeds that I have been planting? They're gonna go to waste. But I realized right away that was my ego, that was my goals. And if it was a pure intention, nothing goes to waste. Nothing goes to waste. Everything transformed into something new. Or it's just a continuation, and that's exactly what happened. Everything has been a continuation and a very in a transformative way in a transformative way, but showing a next step, a next version, like the next version of myself. And the clients were there, the people were there, the like the people from the podcast, they were like, yes, I want to be in the podcast. They are not checking. It's like, oh, she stopped for a year, there was no more episodes. That's our control energy, that we want to be impressing others. But once I find that the more I choose to impress myself in new levels, And that beautiful choreography, it starts to flow around me when I'm just like, I'm impressing myself. I can trust in different levels.
Yes, it's the trust. It's the trust, because that's the trust ultimately, is we're trusting what I found, I had a friend recently, she said, she's going through a major transformation in herself and her branding and her business and pivoting directions. And she's like, I'm not this anymore, but I don't know what I am yet. And I'm just in this space in between. And she said, have you ever been in that space? And I laughed, because I'm like, have I ever been in that space? Are you kidding me? But she said, what did you do? Did you keep forcing yourself to work anyways? Or what did you do? Logistically, what did you actually do in your business? And I thought about it, and I'd never really thought about this before until she asked me. And I realized that every time that I've had to undergo this kind of deep purification transformation process, I've never had to intentionally focus on producing in spite of that. It just happened. Somebody would refer a friend as a client, or somebody would find me on Instagram, or something would open up an opportunity, or I would get a residual check from an acting thing that we did, so is the universe will take care of you. If you trust, the more that you trust that, like, the divine masculine and the feminine, the source, the mother, the father, whatever we want to identify this as, it will take care of you. And I think that helped me soften a lot of my resistance to the distorted masculine that I have tended to operate from. Thinking, like you said, it's the ego thing, but I don't want to lose what I've built. And what if I stop getting favor from the social media, algorithms? And it's not even a problem. Like, it has not been a problem. And just like you said, you give it space when you feel your heart calling you to give it space. And really, it's all about honoring what your heart is calling you to do. So when you're in your integrity, it's like energetically, the pieces come to you, the pieces come together. And there's also something to be said about consistency in just showing up. So, for example, in 2019, I decided I always hated Instagram. I hated it. Yeah. Specifically
social media
Instagram.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Facebook, I was like, fine, that's fine. I don't know. Me and Facebook had our own relationship, right? But which is funny, because now we don't really jive. But it's not my platform for my content anymore. But Instagram, I was like, I don't get it. I literally don't get Instagram. You're supposed to share a picture, or this was before Reels, right? You're supposed to share a picture, and it's supposed to be, communicate a message and a vibe and something, and draw people in and make them stop scrolling and actually read. And I just didn't get it. I was like, I want to understand this more. And I thought, maybe if I just get in the game a little bit more, I'll feel more comfortable. And so that entire year of 2019, I posted something every day, something, whatever it was. It did not matter. It didn't have to be deep. It didn't have to be pretty. I was just documenting different awarenesses of my journey and things that came up in that day. So I began to practice showing up and just being present with what's alive. What's the message that's alive in me today? And sometimes if I felt like, I don't know what it is, I can't find it, I would just write about that.
Oh, wow.
Feeling uninspired.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a good point.
What do you do?
Yeah, what a good point. When we feel inspired, what about talking about when we feel inspired? Love it. As an artist,
people are like,
I'm so
I can
related to
relate.
that. Yes, we need to talk
Yeah.
about when we feel and then we go deeper and we understand why we feel inspired, because it's our source.
Yeah.
So
yes, and we're disconnected from the eros of life, from the eroticism of life itself, and then it just feels dry. The well dries up. So that was a really good, like, getting my feet wet and just seeing what is in this space for me. Along the way, mean, Instagram and I have had a kind of complicated relationship because I like to play on the edges and it would remove a lot of my posts.
Oh yeah.
And one time I actually got my account removed and I got it back. But you know, that was my journey. But when I came to appreciate this as a container for my feminine expression and for my heart to be witnessed and shared and seen and to connect with other people, that felt so good. It felt so much better than, well, this is something I have to do today. You know, it's a what's coming alive in me today, and what is the message that I feel spirit inviting me to share with the people that will see this?
Totally. You mentioned something um, about posting without intention, posting from the heart. And that's something I have experienced too in my way back to Instagram too. Like, okay, I see that hey love relationship, it's part of my masculine. So let's dive into that. And when we feel like you just shared that you were asking yourself, when do I feel that drainage, that force, when you're pushing. I do feel like I'm very tired. You feel it in your body sometimes as well. So I just want to put it out there for other, especially with social media. I feel contracted. Yes. I feel like already, like I have to finish this. And it's like, I already said I will do it. I'm halfway. It's going to get erased if I don't do it.
And then it takes twice as long to do it.
And then Instagram's like not saving it. And
and then they don't even show it to people.
Yeah. And then nobody see it. Like there's no interaction. It's like, exactly, because, and then you're so resentful. And that's exactly what I have seen. Like what I noticed in the past. It's like, if I'm resentful, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like whatever you see that there's resentment, there's that call to go deeper and say, why did we abuse from ourselves? It's our body saying, I don't do it.
Doing this to ourselves.
I'm tired, girl. Take a break. Go for a glass of water, go for a walk, do some yoga, whatever, dance. So the more I go with the a little bit of feminine, and when my feminine is done, I go dance, I do different things, I go for a walk. And then when she's done, then I put my masculine into service. It's like that. I'm practicing that dance in the last little while, and it's working so far for me. But the universe is always pushing us to the next level. So we'll see what's later.
We'll expand.
We always expand, yes. And so you were saying that when you are interacting with, it would be beautiful to keep sharing about this with social media, that curiosity of what can happen. Because usually when we have no expectations and we're like, well, I'm creating from a place that I don't care what happens. I just want to do it. It's that feminine that it wants to do it, wants to create. You interact with that inner, what I call la diosa creadora de realidades, your inner goddess. Then you just do it to support, to hold you, to admire your own beauty. And then that's exactly when you attract. That's exactly when you're performing.
The energy is matched. It's going to meet you in that energy. That's why that energy of forcing something and like creating from a contracted place instead of an expanded and open space, you receive that back. But then we get mad that we receive that back, but it's like, but I did it anyways. And the thing is that I have this personal rule that if I'm not feeling connected with my body, if I'm feeling, disconnected from being on the computer or being on whatever, writing for a long time on something else, working on a course, working on the website, if I'm feeling this lack of embodied connection and or I feel mentally drained, I don't try to create. I don't even show up to try to create a post, for example, from that space. I'm going to go move my body first. I'm going to go just feel good, just do something for the sake of pleasure, really. Like even my work is pleasure. So that's just next level, right? So I, like, for example, the other day, I shared in the evening a video of me dancing on the floor.
And I love that. Yeah.
That was literally just me and my process, because I sat down, I was like, I feel some thoughts forming, and I think there are some things that I want to share. And I sat down with them and I was feeling this kind of like blah, from working on this website because I just launched the pre-registration for my next course.
Woohoo!
And
Talk more about that too.
yeah. And so, yeah, I'll get into that. Well, that one's a men's course. It's my first men's course. But it was just a whole different writing a landing page, creating the registration, all the price and the blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I can't create from this space. So instead, what did I do? I ended up making a post that was literally me in my process of like shifting in my body. And that resonates with, because it's real. It resonates because it's real. And also, I really I don't ever plan or pre-schedule posts. That's another thing that a lot of times it depends on what works for you specifically. But what I find for me is that what the collective tends to need to hear from me, it comes alive in that moment.
Yes.
And I can't possibly predict what that's going to be. I might have ideas and some notes or like a word that stands out to me, and I'll come back to it when I feel drawn to it. But I just cannot, that feeds my soul to be able to be a channel for that.
Yeah.
And so that motivates me even more to show up and just be in that space every day.
Yeah. It's magical. It's magical for being in the present. Same thing. Like I never have experienced that the schedule for posting, because same thing. Like I just feel like sometimes you might even create a post that days after you don't relate anymore to it. You're like, no, I don't feel it anymore.
Like the moment has passed.
Who was this person? Who wrote this? Then when you post it, it's like, oh, I already made it. So I have many posts that I create when I started with Surrendering to the Soul a couple of years ago, that I didn't ended up sharing it, and I saw them and I was like, they're really good, but I don't feel like that's what I want to express.
You didn't feel it.
Yeah, I don't feel it. They're good. I love them, but I could appreciate them if I see them, but I don't feel like I'm sharing it. I want to share. That's what I want to put on service right now, and we should honor that as a woman.
Yes, like, and the more we do, the more we're blessed for that.
Yes, like that. We have that gift of intuition to put that into the collective, as you said it. Okay, tell us more about your men's course.
Oh yeah, so so the Wild Arrows course, the one for women, for the wild feminine embodiment, that comes out in just a few days. But then the counterpart for the men is called Wild Hearted Lover. And so essentially in that course, I'm going into, well, the sacred masculine embodiment for men. And a lot of that, it's more than just like the polarity that we hear about a lot of times, or the mental hacks, the way that you get yourself into being more masculine as men. Now, when I started working with men in coaching and working with more couples and seeing the struggles of men, it just opened up so much. I was like, oh, this is not just my husband. This is revealing a lot more about the collective masculine. And so this course is to support those men with the tools to help them to better understand the feminine and be in service to love itself through devotion to the feminine, and also distinguish between, honoring her heart versus and not abandoning their own heart along the process. That's something that I found a lot of men tend to do. Yeah, and then the women don't like that. No, we can tell that it's not integrity.
Yeah.
So so that's coming out in the end of July.
Amazing. We're gonna leave your Instagram in the video. So men, I see them that are very curious.
Yes,
that men are curious about the information, but then they don't, they don't open up really to make the change or like expose themselves into like, well, I'm doing this kind of work, but you're not gonna regret it. Actually, it's super sexy. I love when a man. Yes. I can tell when a men have done work in themselves, and I can it's the vibration. You can tell it in a text message. You can sense it in a few words. You can sense it in the way they walk. Like we can feel it, and that's attractive and that's very sexy, and that make us feel like we could be folded, we could be supported, and you guys would
Yeah, and that
understand
makes
when we
us
go
want to
through
open
process.
more.
Yes, exactly. And we feel also like, okay, there's going to be room for me for my growth here, because there's someone who is already understanding the process of growth and letting go and then die, rebirth.
Yeah, going through their process
and going through the whole cycle. There's something else you want to share with us?
I mean, if there's anything that you have a question about.
Ooh, well, I could have many questions. I could have many questions. I do have questions about your relationship. I know this season is more oriented for a woman. I want to put this season into the service of the sacred feminine. And I think this is very clever for us. There was a post that you were sharing a little bit about that your husband and yourself had a really bad season. Let's put it that way. He went through, from what I understood from what you wrote, he went through a sickness or something like that.
It was a disability, so he had some mysterious pain in his body, and it was chronic, and it just wouldn't go away, and it was very intense, and so that just took over. He became very depressed. He couldn't do the things that he loved to do, and so that lasted about 2.5 years. And during that time, I also developed an autoimmune disorder where my whole body just flared up and was attacking itself from the inside out.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was a very dark time. And it was during that time that I was my first big initiation consciously, where I decided, I'm going to surrender to whatever this is. I'm going to go into this process with an open heart and see where does the healing want to come through. And it was not in a traditional way at all. So ended up getting into all of these more woo-woo things that I thought were so weird, and integrating that with all of the scientific things that I had previously been more focused on, and realizing they're all the same. It's all the same stuff. And connecting. Yeah. And connecting more in a spiritual way with all of these unseen helpers, and source, and practices that I previously, with the religion that I had grown up in, I wouldn't have given myself permission to explore. But it led us on this trajectory of both of us doing our own inner work and healing, and inner child, shadow work, sexual liberation, like all these different things. So everything that I talk about in my page, it's like we've lived it, we are living it, we're embodied it, and we're embodying it more fully.
Wow. And is there any suggestions you want to share with another woman who is going through that in a marriage? For kids. I grew up with three brothers, so I understand the kind of energy that flows in a house with a lot of kids at the same time, different personalities, different needs, hormonal changes, etc. Now I have just one, and okay, this is perfect. I don't have to worry about my food anymore. Growing up with brothers.
Don't eat my food. That's real.
Yeah, he's like, I don't have to do it anymore. Yeah, nobody's gonna eat your food anymore.
You can eat slow now.
Totally. So it's a lot. Yeah. Many women crash, and otherwise they don't. Many women don't, and I saw it with my mom. Like I saw it, she just let herself in the last place in the list because everyone else had to be before, because she couldn't keep up as a single mom with 4 kids. She was like, no, you know what? I can wait. I could be the last one, and it took forever for her to realize, there's never the time for you to put yourself.
There's never. It's never going to be convenient.
It's never going to be convenient as a mother, in a couple, in a family. It's never going to be convenient enough for you to put yourself first on the list. Yeah. And that's one of my biggest messages. I feel like becoming from being a South America woman, that we have seen it throughout generations. For the ones that they don't know, I didn't know Lucy is from Peru and she speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
I just find out today.
Yeah.
Where are you located right now?
Oh, in San Diego now. Well, in Carlsbad, but in the San Diego area.
Oh, in the San Diego area.
Southern California. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, she has Peruvian background.
Mm-hmm.
So we, like, it's a beautiful message. I always share it. Like, don't wait. This is never going to be convenient. You just said it.
You just have to start somewhere.
You
just have to start.
And our kids are going to learn from this is I
Yes,
always say,
yes.
like, I know I repeat it every day, but our kids are going to learn from for our example. And for me, my journey has been a little bit more let's say profound, because I didn't have that example from my mom, and I'm grateful for that, because now she constantly teaches me that that's my main goal: how to learn, learn how to put myself first on the list. That's a constant in my life, because I never saw it.
Cultural thing too.
It's a cultural thing, so I never saw it.
My mom was the same.
Yeah, we don't have a reference. We don't. So the best gift we can give to our children is that they're seeing it in ourselves, so they can repeat it. Otherwise, it's taking me a lot of work. I'm saying it's taking me a lot of reflection.
Like, it's the boundaries that you set for yourself too.
Yeah.
Like, you're showing them this is how you protect your own energy and your own space and your own boundaries, and not like, because I have so many women that ask me, well, how do you have these moments with, how do you get to dance without your kids jumping all over you? It's like, well, there's this thing that we teach in our family called respect and boundaries and consent. And we start early, but I understand that it's not normal. It's not the norm.
It's not the norm.
But when you really, but it's when you make a decision and a commitment to nurturing a certain type of environment in your home that says, this is how we respect each other. This is how we take care of each other. And I also take care of myself. And I've had these conversations with all of my kids, and they see it in action. Mommy's taking care of herself. We respect that. When she's in the space and the door is closed, we're not going to be barging on, now there's a learning curve, of course, if you've been used to just them like being on you whenever they want, whenever they need something, something.
Yeah, and they always need something.
Yeah, they always need something, but not at the expense of them being rejected or feeling unloved. Never that. I think that a lot of times we as mothers, we can have this contradiction inside that either we're giving into what they want. Yeah, we're giving them what they want all the time, exactly when they want it, or they're not getting their needs met and they're going to feel neglected and be traumatized as adults. And there are more options than that. So anyways, all that to say, the more that we can create a consistent space for ourselves, the more normal it becomes for them. And the more we all benefit from it.
Yes.
Everybody does. I became a more present mom, more happy, more open, more loving, more open to love, just being more of an embodiment of love and not feeling like my nervous system was just on edge every time their voices would ask me something. That was how I felt raising our older two daughters, who are teenagers now. And so when we had two more kids, I said, I'm in a different space. I'm in a different headspace. But to answer your question about how to manage that when you're going through a tough season with your relationship, it's also having that space. Just having that space, regardless if it's good, if it's hard, if you feel like you're at the end of your relationship, but you're not really sure what you should do, create that deeper space for yourself so you can really tune into what your heart is saying and feel what your body needs to feel. If we just felt what our bodies needed to feel every day, we would see a tremendous difference in our lives in a short period of time.
It is true. It is true. And I sometimes I still forget it. And I work on this, and I give myself like a lot of time for myself, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not even present in my body. I'm already even dancing or something. I get distracted. I get into my goal, into my head, And I'm like, I'm not even here. And this was supposed to space to be here. And sometimes I find myself
like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I haven't cooked this. I have to do this. I have to do this call. I have to pay this bill.
Well, that's where the masculine comes in. That's where the masculine helps us to redirect our focus. This is where I love listening to my masculine's direction. And he's like, come here, come here. Let me show you. You want to dance with me? How about let's dance. Let's dance for 20 minutes. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't feel like it. He's like, no, let's just go. Let's just trust me. And I show up and it shifts my entire energy. So I learned to trust that guidance in that direction. And just he calms me. He says, it's okay. Just one thing at a time. The masculine's really good on focusing on this thing first, and now this thing next. And what's the order of importance? Because he knows the vision, he knows the direction, and he can help the feminine channel her powerful life force energy into whatever that next thing is. Otherwise, she's all over the place. There's no containment. It's like I can set aside 2 hours for myself for self-care and not feel like I did any self-care because I wasn't, like you said, that I didn't have the presence and feel that drop into what it is that I am meant to be guided to do in the space. Or if I'm doing just a bunch of nothing, to be okay with doing a bunch of nothing.
Totally.
That's exactly it.
Sometimes I experience usually couple hours a day. Also, I just let my body to just choose. And the more I do it, the more I'm like, okay, this is the way. But yeah, when I get like a little bit controlling, I'm like, we're going to do this.
I'm going to schedule everything in my space. And it's like, no, it doesn't feel good.
You mentioned something I would like to, before we wrap up, I would like to bring this into the table, consentment. And I probably we're like walking a little bit away from social media. There's a little bit of I think we can apply still that
yes
that how can I call it, that practice into social media, but it's very important for women, for mom. I have seen it. I'm gonna briefly share here that I realized I wasn't using consentment with my son. I felt like I'm entitled. Of course, it doesn't feel like that because you gave them life. Right? You truly love them. But I apply this, the more I do it, the more I realize it's a reflection, right? And I'm like, oh, I can take a kiss. I can hug him whenever I want. So I'm starting to say, it's okay for you if I give you a hug? Like, can I stay here? And he's like, yeah. Like at the beginning, he was surprised, but now he's starting to do it as well because he's learning how to respect that consentment, that not because I'm your mom, you can't just touch me and hug me and kiss me whenever you want, because sometimes we truly don't want anyone to touch us. And we're learning this new with our kids. And it's very important to learn consentment from a very early age. I think it's a beautiful skill to have.
Yes,
so
yes.
If we expand more, you have 4 kids in a very conscious environment, in a conscious marriage. So it would be lovely to see what's your perception about that.
Yeah. So consent, it's a lot like, so if you think about it like this, so I personally love it when Ryan, my husband, just comes in here and he just gives me a hug out of nowhere. However, so it's not a matter of like always asking, can I hug you right now? Can I hug you? But sometimes initially to really get the concept of consent, there is that overly communicative, which is perfectly communicative at that season. And because before I used to experience spontaneous affection as a very intrusive violation. My body would contract. I'm like, get off me. Like I didn't ask to be touched, and I didn't ask to be touched like that. And so it was an unlearning. So it's partially relearning how we experience things in our body and undoing patterns that were maybe created in states of distress and from a wounded place. But even then, when we practice consent, instead of just assuming that the other person wants to be touched or vice versa, then you start to establish more of the energetic attunement with each other. So he can see by my body language more now than ever before if I'm actually open to being touched, or if I'm feeling, if it doesn't seem like I'm contracted and I'm like fuck off energy. And even then he might put a hand on my shoulder and say, hey. Then he would ask, would you like a hug? My 14-year-old daughter, when she sees me agitated or just frustrated about something, she'll ask me like, would you like a hug? Do you want a hug? And I can tell her yes, or I can tell her no. And she can say, thank you for taking care of yourself. Because this is what we're doing when we say no, we're taking care of ourselves. And that's ultimately what our loved ones want us to do. It's not a personal rejection. And so we hug a lot. We're very physically affectionate. And there is a lot of just say, I'm going to swoop you up and pick you up and hug you. And our 7-year-old son, if he doesn't want it, he'll say, actually, mommy, I don't really want a hug right now. And I'll say, okay. And he experiences me being okay with his boundary. Then he gets to practice that with his friends and with anybody else in his life. And they do that with each other too. Our 8-year-old daughter will get all, fun and playful and try to tickle him. And he'll say like, no, I don't want to be tickled right now. No, thank you. And so it's just these feeling like it's safe to say no. It's a big deal. And feeling accepted for wherever you are in your openness or not of receiving physical touch. And it's just a way of life, and when the norm is that physical closeness, that consent is a much more of a felt, not always as verbally expressed, but very, very attuned to this person's body and their energy and what their body is telling you. And then using the words to clarify that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lucy. Thank you so much. Yeah, we gotta normalize saying no. It's part of taking care of ourselves, and it's beautiful what you share with us today. That saying no, we can actually feeling grateful for the other one and say, I admire you. Thank you for taking care of yourself and knowing what you need.
Yeah.
And respect that and celebrate it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes from Danielle Laporte, I don't know if you're familiar with her, she's here in Canada, actually, is something that I think I still have it on my WhatsApp. I grabbed it a long time ago, and it's that no make ways to yes. And
Yes.
for me, in that moment, I was like many years ago, I was learning how to say no. I didn't know. I always I grew up in that culture that you should please everyone and put you in the last spot on the list. So that was a new me, and of course many people didn't like that, and that was expected too for me.
Yeah.
I was like, it's time for me to learn how to, and that process in that chapter, I didn't finish what I was saying, it was a beautiful process for me to see that the universe always provides, and then people that understood boundaries and celebrate boundaries came into my life.
Yes.
In that process of learning how to say no, the yes was more vibrant for me. It was like, it was more clear what made me feel alive.
Yeah. That's how it happens.
Hi, Lucy. Thank you so much for this time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We are going to share her Instagram here. She has amazing programs for women as well. Go and check her Instagram. If you are into this journey, you're not going to regret it. Especially if you have a family, you will be like, okay, it's possible. It is possible.
Yeah.
There's no excuses. Oh, if my husband, no, it is possible. It is possible to go through hardship in a big family and make it through in a way that you actually, that you survive, but you thrive. You transform yourself into a better version because you learn from all that experience. And it is possible with big families as well. I think it's beautiful.
Yes.
To see that. So thank you to openly put that into service for others. It really inspired us, and it really made us believe that we're in the right path whenever we doubt, because sometimes we doubt.
Yes, I know. I hear you.
Thank you so much. Mwah. Hopefully we have you again.
Thank you, Jen.
Hopefully we have you
Yes.
again.
So let me be your medicine, your medicine. Let me be your medicine. Let me be your medicine.